All right, the second of the two games for Arax, like I had mentioned, is up against Kuvira, and Kuvira is a powerhouse. We all know of Kuvira actually had to get subbed out in Fight Night not too long ago, and the person who subbed in for Kuvira actually ended up winning it. So, unfortunate for Kuvira having a sub out there, but obviously a powerhouse from Russia here. So we'll see if Kuvira is able to take it home versus Arax in round 7 of the Ascent of Targon qualifier.
All right, so Arax told us what the bans were. Did you catch that? I saw someone ban Targon and someone ban Swain, but since they both have Swain decks and they both have Targon decks, hopefully we'll figure it out in game number 1 here.
Nope, yeah, I didn't catch it, unfortunately. Sorry for speaking Chinese, anybody in chat who might not have played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before, but we are getting into game 1 here. Arax versus Kuvira, 0-0, game 1, round 7.
So I do believe that this means the Lux Aesol was banned out of Arax's lineup, and the Draven Swain was banned out of Kuvira's lineup. So we are going to get started off with Ramp Soul versus Deep.
Nice. And just a reminder to everybody who might just be tuning in right now, both players are X and 2, which means they're both 4 and 2 for this current tournament. The loser will likely be out of the running for the top cut, so we'll see who is able to advance here and still keep themselves alive for a chance at that invitational, that $2,000 invitational next week.
So there were, if you watched Fight Night last night, Kuvira has actually made a small update to this deck specifically, where Iceveil Archer, and it might have just been 2 Iceveil Archer, were traded out for 2 Avalanche, but does now have access to that in the deck. Unfortunately, not going to play out super well in this particular matchup. I don't think there's really a whole lot that you're getting out of Avalanche value in a matchup like this, and we are going to see Arax keep Maokai in the opener. Ramp Soul sort of fell off because it was constantly exploited for its lack of removal.
Yep.
You know, outside of Avalanche and Icequake, there's really not a whole lot that you can do to deal with units. So this Maokai is likely going to get to stick. And unless Kuvira opened both copies of Avalanche, is just going to get full value and will likely be the win condition that Arax is looking for.
Yeah, we do see the Thorny Toad to start here from the deep deck. This deep deck going with the Stalking Shadows, and I really do love how we've seen so many different decks today play with Stalking Shadows. The whole duplication feeling of things like Riptide or things like all these sea monsters. Again, this sort of playing into that strategy of just swarming the board with sea monsters feels really good. And going with the Dead Bloom Wanderer there, so that's going to get Arax to be deep incredibly fast in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, this is going to be insanely fast. It's going to be 10 tossed between the Maokai and the 2 Dead Blooms as they continue to come down. And, I mean, Kuvira could get a Trundle out here, but that's just going to run into a Thorny Toad and continue to accelerate Arax's game plan. Get 3 triggers onto that Maokai, and for the first time, let me bust out the pen and paper and start tracking this Maokai level. I believe we're currently at 0.
Wait, now you bust out the pen and paper for today? Jesus.
I've had it out all day, but my memory's been good for the most part.
Oh, don't say that. You're gonna jinx it.
I'm gonna jinx it.
But yeah, this that Dead Bloom was a pretty snap decision too by Arax. So I gotta give him credit where credit is due for the speed in which he plays the game of Runeterra. I don't know if that's playing to his advantage or not, but at the very least, whenever we see him play, he makes some pretty quick decisions.
Okay, so the single Sejuani out of Kuvira here, and so that's something that I wanted to mention. So the Sejuani is sort of his one kind of one card out for the Maokai. Granted, Arax does have a second copy, so he's going to feel pretty good about that. But because Kuvira has diversified the champion lineup to 3 Trundle, 1 Sejuani, and 2 Aesol, he actually feels a little bit weaker to the Maokai win condition because you don't have the ability to shuffle in champion spells as much when you're diversifying it to a 1-2-3.
Yeah, I got to agree. That Trundle is going to be his only option to do so, which means he probably is not going to want to be playing it very early on in the game. He's going to want to keep that interaction around until the potential level up of Maokai here, which again, with how quickly, we're seeing these Dead Blooms hit the field and seeing Maokai hit the field, this Maokai might be leveled up sooner rather than later, which is going to be very good for Arax.
It's currently only sitting at 6, which is pretty far away. We do see the Jettison in hand, though. We do have, the other Dead Bloom. So we've got some options, but we're 2 turns away from the Aesol coming online.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Arax really has to go for a big mill turn on turn 7 and then go into that Nautilus on 8 to try and contest that. The Infinite Mind Splitter going to shut down a fair amount of the blocks, and all of a sudden, Kuvira is representing a lot of damage that you do not want to be dealing with here.
Yeah, that 8-8, we've talked about it before, is just a huge body, let alone the stun effect. Dealing with that 8-8 is not going to be easy on the side of Arax over here. Atrocity not going to do much. This Vile Feast is at least going to provide a blocker for the 8-8, but that Mind Splitter is going to eat up that blocker and also grow, so not exactly the best spot to be in. Gets rid of 2 Jettison, which I don't know if that's really a good thing or a bad thing. I'd say it's bad because you're not going to be deep as fast as you'd want, not drawing those Jettison from Maokai, but they're also not as useful the later in the game as you go, so it's kind of nice to be able to get rid of those.
Okay, so we do have the Devourer top deck, and that's actually pretty good because that'll pair right onto that Sejuani, and that's part of the reason that we threw the Vile Feast at the Sejuani. And Kuvira actually not going for the open attack, going to start off with the Spacey Sketcher. I feel like Spacey Sketcher, this is sort of the last deck that we see it in, is Ramp Soul. It's sort of phased its way out of even the Lux Soul decks, and I like it a lot because you constantly, anytime you play a ramp deck, you're sitting there, it's turn 12, you top deck another Wording Stone, you're like, what am I going to do with this? The answer is discard it.
Yep, and there goes the Catalyst of Aeons, so pretty close. Same idea. Ramp card not used really much later in the game. Has a little bit of heal value, but that's about all. And would Catalyst be okay healing units too? Or would that be like a little too good?
I already think healing units is really good since so much of the removal in Legends of Runeterra is damage based. Yep. I'm not sure I want to sort of continue to give that, especially to the region that already has Elixir of Iron and Troll Chant.
Yeah, that is a very good point. So we do see the Messenger come down to Kuvira here. We'll see if he opts to go for a pretty big attack, it looks like. I imagine going to discard another ramp option in hand for this Spacey Sketcher. We'll see what the other Celestial is going to be. Looks like Kuvira, though, having picked the Messenger, seems to be digging for Aurelion Soul. Getting the Aurelion Soul is going to be huge. There is currently in Arax's hand no way to get rid of it, no vengeance or anything like that. Does draw a Dread Dredgers to go deeper faster, and he might be able to go deep this turn.
He's already deep.
Oh, sorry, not deep. Might be able to level the Maokai.
Well, he's at 18 out of 20, so I think he would have been just shy if he had played the Dread Dredgers.
Yep. So next turn, possibly, when he draws, that would be 2. Actually, well, he could have... No, even if he has 3 units die here, it's still going to be a little off. So hopefully Arax can keep this Maokai until next turn around.
No, he only has to kill 2 units here, and then the Dread Dredgers will level the Maokai.
Oh, playing it after the fact. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, but the Sunburst onto the Maokai is heartbreaking. That is such a timely removal option out of Kuvira.
Yeah, that feels bad. You saw the deep breath from Arax knowing that, that's going to stink not having that Maokai anymore. But that is only 1 Maokai, so there is a very good chance, especially with Arax already being deep, that he is able to draw into the second Maokai pretty soon here.
Third Maokai.
That's the second Maokai that hit the field?
Yeah, the first one died pretty immediately to the Sejuani.
Oh, that's right. I forgot it got picked off by the Sejuani. Okay, yeah, so third Maokai. So definitely going to need to draw into that. On the bright side, by the time it is drawn, it will likely be leveled now.
Yeah, and I think even if Kuvira does have Aurelion Soul, we were pretty likely to see the Sunburst instead that turn. You don't really want to put yourself in a position where you have to win the game pretty immediately. But now we get to see the Nautilus come out from Arax, is deep, is going to have the Abyssal Eye that can come down alongside it. And while this is an okay attack turn out of Kuvira, if we just take the Mind Splitter and block everything else, we don't have the level up on the Aesol available to us this turn.
Yeah.
This block scares me, because this block means we level Aesol. Or we have to use a Grasp of the Undying onto a Spacey Sketcher.
Yeah, I don't think you take this block here. And wow, okay, even not gonna block the Average Sentry. So just if Aesol is in Kuvira's hand, that's just gonna be a leveled Aesol. And right now, Arax has no way of dealing with that and removing it before it levels up. So this is definitely risky. We'll see if he opts to throw down the Nautilus here. The unfortunate part about throwing down the Nautilus is that He actually now decreases his chance of drawing the Maokai, shuffling back in these sea monsters. But I think at this point, not sure if Maokai is going to be early enough.
He's got the Atrocity in hand, so he can definitely switch over to the damage game plan, especially because he has that Abyssal Eye. And it feels like Arax has just made the read that Kuvira doesn't have Aurelion Soul, or he would have played it a little bit earlier. And it looks like he's right. He doesn't have Aurelion Soul, but he does have double Infinite Mind Splitter.
Yep.
Granted, that doesn't matter as much because Abyssal Eye is the one activator that we needed to hit you with to get this Nautilus Atrocity online.
Yeah, so awesome follow-up after that Nautilus. You know, Kuvira probably feeling pretty good about that Mind Splitter hitting Nautilus and then instantly seeing the elusive unit hit the board. Another great draw on the side of Arax, drawing the Devourer there.
So there's something that I missed earlier that I want to bring up because it's about to become extremely relevant, and that is that there is one Flash Freeze in Kuvira's deck list.
Wait, what?
There is just a single copy of Flash Freeze.
Oh wow! Actually, looking at his list too, he has a variety of spells in this.
Oh
list.
Yeah, a lot. 2 Guiding Touch, 1 Pale Cascade. Can't even make up the mind on the cantrips. Then we have a couple of Dragon's Clutch for the 3 Mind Splitter and the 2 Ace Soul.
Wow, this is
only 1 Star Shaping.
Another toolbox of a spell selection. So this Flash Freeze, you gotta think was actually why play Flash Freeze when Hush does the same thing with a Okay, no. So Hush does it with They Who Endure, but if you're going up against Atrocity with not They Who Endure, then yeah.
Yeah, that feels like specifically for this deep matchup. Yeah. At least this will set up one of the Mind Splitters to get devoured.
Yeah. Yep.
And it looks like that is if I'm correct on this, that is the Mind Splitter that is attached to the Nautilus. Never mind, there's a Guiding Touch. But we still have the Grasp of the Undying.
Yep. And that seems like a pretty good read by Kuvira, healing up that Mind Splitter outside of the Devourer range. This will put it back in Devourer range, so we'll see if now not enough mana for Star Shaping. So
I believe we've seen both Guiding Touch already as well, so I don't think there's any option for Kuvira to save this Mind Splitter. Don't know how much he cares, given that now he does have
Flash Freeze would technically save it.
No, it wouldn't.
If you what am I? It's based on health.
Health.
Never mind, based on health.
Yeah.
See, now you got me thinking about this Flash Freeze. Like, all right, what else can this card do in this matchup? And no, I absolutely cannot save it. So, 3 mana, Hush. Yeah. Okay.
It is going to have to be the Hush, but that at least gets all of the mana out of Kuvira, so that next turn you could actually kill that Aurelion Soul if you want to go for the Withering Wail Atrocity. Yeah. It doesn't feel great, but if your opponent gets down 2 Mind Splitters and an Ace Soul, I can't imagine you come back from that. And it looks like we might actually just go for the Atrocity now onto this Mind Splitter to actually get the Devourer off onto it. This does mean that Ace Soul is going to come down in level. We don't have anything to stop that, but we will at least unlock our Nautilus and our Devourer of the Depths.
That seems like so much invested just to kill that Mind Splitter. So we'll see if that's going to pay off. Abyssal Eye is a card that can go face, being able to get that elusive attack through, but the Aurelion Soul coming down, and after the Atrocity too, means there is no way.
The Whale.
Yeah, the Whale.
The Withering Wail stops the Ace Soul level.
Oh, actually, yeah, wait, 1, 2... Yeah, well, okay, yeah, but then... Oh, yeah, and Ace Soul actually can't attack because of the Nautilus.
Yeah, I was about to say... Yeah, exactly. Neither of your units can attack. I mean, if you want to attack with the Mind Splitter, I'll block that with I'll trade that with the Devourer of the Depths and kill your Aurelion Soul with the Nautilus. I mean, it took the Atrocity to get here, but now Arax has some pretty decent attackers. Kuvira is going to continue to generate these Celestials. Another Devourer. Not going to quite be enough, but I mean, this is a pretty good spot. I don't like the attack with the Drag Dredgers. That doesn't actually do anything.
So Troll Chant actually doesn't do much for this whole Nautilus hitting the field here. I'm trying to think of Flash Freeze doesn't do a whole lot if he wants to trade with the Devourer, maybe. Just trying to think of what other options Kuvira could have here.
Another Hush would be pretty big.
Yeah, there is 2 copies of it in the deck, so I got to agree. I mean, Hush would be okay here. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why I'm starting to like Deep more lately, is because it has such a good matchup against Aurelion Soul. And one of the first things is, yeah, sure, Deep's win con goes online a little bit earlier than Aurelion Soul, usually around turn 8 or so, with Aurelion Soul being turn 10 and after. There's the Hush you were just talking about. But Nautilus also, crucially, is a great blocker for Aurelion Soul. It is one of the only units that is bigger than this 10/10 body. So that Hush, though, going to enable the Nautilus to be blocked by this useless Wording Stones, now suddenly finding a use.
But that does mean that we're going to have low health on both the Aurelion Soul and the Mind Splitter, so the Devourer should be able to take care of this A-Soul here. Or no, it's not, because there's a Hush in Kuvira's hand, and you are perfectly lined up to not have that actually work out. Do you even throw this down? It looks like he has decided he will. Doesn't want to let him do anything else with that mana. Says any Celestials that you have are going to have to wait until next turn. Sure, you get to level your A-Soul, but this is sort of the board that I have presented, and only one Atrocity in Arax's deck means he will not have a second copy to try and top deck for lethal.
Yeah, it feels bad having to play into that Hush there, but this Aurelion Soul is going to level up. That beautiful animation from the Aurelion Soul level up there. And we'll see what kind of Celestials Kuvira is able to get with Aurelion Soul's effect there. This is very much still a game. It really just depends on how long that Aurelion Soul sticks around. And honestly, at this point, it's looking like there's a pretty good shot of it sticking around. Have we seen any star? Wow, there's only one star shaping in this deck.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Would it have been better to just save the Devour of the Depth for the following turn where your opponent is totally out of Hushes? It almost feels like that was a tilt slam on the side of Arax.
Yeah. I mean, I got to agree. I feel like that way you guarantee, like, sure, they'll have that one turn to play the Celestials for 0 mana, but at least they'll only have one turn. Now there's multiple turns. We're seeing all these slow spells come out. Yeah, I got to agree.
And I'm pretty sure this is just going to be the end of the game here. That's generally what happens when Aurelion Soul levels. Yeah. But if Kuvira opens with the Great Beyond and then you actually do get the Devourer onto the A-Soul, there are still things that Kuvira can do to stop that. We could see the Star Shaping. We could even see a second Aurelion Soul. There is the Star Shaping. So now we do actually have confirmation that it would not have worked out.
And Kuvira going to take it away there. Going up 1-0 versus Arax. And, we're going to see what we have in game 2. Looks like we're going to queue up the
Fiora Shen
versus Deep, it looks like. So he's going to go ahead and keep the Deep deck in the queue.
So we had mentioned a couple of times that Deep does feel like one of the decks where the Fiora can find that win con. There's a lot of early drops that don't pair well into her, the Dreg Dredgers and the Thorny Toad. Generally, if you're playing Shen, you can even get kills onto the Dead Bloom Wanderer and the Jaw Hunters. Even things like Abyssal Eye don't get to just sit around and generate value because they too are just food for the Fiora if that is the kind of hand that Kuvira is going to open with. Vile Feast, do you ever keep this given that it is your best chance at actually popping barriers and probably taking a kill down onto that Fiora?
So this is, I feel like, maybe third time that we've mentioned the Vile Feast being able to pop barriers. So I am curious to see if Arax is going to, utilize that in that way, because I do feel like that's one of the best things to use it for in this matchup. Dreg Dredger's hitting it really early, though. Going to start that Deep train going. Also got the Thorny Toad and the Jaw Hunters. But, yeah, having these small units, if we do see an early Fiora come down from Kuvira, is not going to be good. This Fiora is going to be able to clean up the board nicely.
Yeah, and we did see a mulligan to Vile Feast, so decides that he doesn't really value keeping the barrier popping spells. I think the Grasp of the Undying was kept. That doesn't sound right. It was probably mulliganed into. I'm not 100% sure. But now we see that Abyssal Eye that I had mentioned too, can sit around and get value. And this is not really the kind of matchup where the Maokai gets to sit around. I have to actually look at exactly what Kuvira is running. There are no War Chefs, so, there is a Swiftwing Lancer that'll come down the turn after, as well as, of course, things like Riposte, even Relentless Pursuit to open up options to go ahead and kill that Maokai. But there's no answer for a Grasp of the Undying single combat not coming out in response to try and get a spell. Generally don't want to trade single combat just to draw another spell. I feel like people try to force these River Shapers quite often, but Kuvira going to play it patiently, and now the Shen comes down alongside a Challenger. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I don't know if I like that Grasp onto the River Shaper. Like, I feel like that's not optimal value for that particular card. There's a lot of better targets, like, I don't know, Fiora. So...
Well, if your opponent gets down Shen alongside River Shaper, I feel like that's just going to start to run away with the game, especially given that Arax doesn't have any way to remove it cleanly. I mean, you could throw down the Jaw Hunters, but if you run into a barrier spell, which you're almost certainly going to, given that Kuvira is going to get to attack with Shen and the River Shaper will draw at least one spell. I definitely think the Grasp, as bad as it feels, did have to come out there and try and shut that down.
All right, so it looks like Kuvira gonna take a second to think here. See what,
which is good. I could use the breather. This has been a breakneck pace on the side of Arax and Kuvira, just constantly going back and forth.
That's what we've come to see with Arax today, just firing off those decisions, which it is refreshing. But as a caster, yeah, you got to. We're usually here to fill the time in between while the players think, and now we actually have to. We have to like compile our thoughts a little bit faster.
So this is a slower matchup, and there's no way other than swipping Lancer and I guess Genevieve. So we are kind of in the turns where Kuvira can just kill this Maokai. I like just ending the round here, not killing the Fleet Feather Tracker, saying, you know what, you can actually go ahead and take my Jaw Hunters as long as I get to guarantee keep my Maokai around. Because if Kuvira plays something like a Genevieve or a Swiftwing Lancer here, Arax just gets to play another Maokai.
And Deadbloom Wanderer hitting the field. I believe, how close to deep are we? Wow, okay. Not really even that close yet. All right, sorry, no, never mind. We are at 20 now after the Maokai with the sapling, and this is turn 6. So with that jettison, it looks like we will see the turn 7 deep when Nautilus starts to become impactful. We'll see if that's the case. But for now, Maokai going to get picked off with Genevieve, which feels kind of bad because that is a prime target for Genevieve.
Yeah, and I think that, now the Shen gets to come in with the Genevieve. This Fleet Feather Tracker either gets held back or just kills the Deadbloom Wanderer, either one. I mean, we could even just give the barrier over to that, kill the Jaw Hunters, and then have this pick off something else like the Thorny Toad. It looks like that is the line that Kuvira is going to go for. Maybe reconsider the options here and just preserve the life on this Genevieve for now.
Yeah, and, Shen with this barrier effect on the Fleet Feather Tracker just feels such good. It's like the definition of value, man. Just having that challenger unit with Shen feels so good. Going to also be able to challenge an additional unit with Genevieve here and really just going to start to plow through Arax's field. This is going to be rough for Arax to continue to keep up here with Kuvira. Still no Fiora. Like, I feel like so many times we've seen this Shen Fiora today. The deck is actually not getting Fiora and still doing an okay job of winning with just barrier stuff.
Oh, for sure. And that's the strength of the deck, right? Is while you do have the potential to all in on this Fiora win condition, you do have things like River Shaper that also demand answers and can be tough to deal with. And you don't even necessarily secure the late game with something like Deep because Brightsteel Formation is an absolute bomb of a card.
Yeah, that card is a big boy. 9/9.
But if we're going to talk about these big units with high toughness and high attack, we have to talk about Nautilus, the 13/13, the largest organic unit in the game because I'm not counting Catastrophe. That's inorganic. You have to force that one really hard. Nautilus just comes on down, gets done what he needs to get done. That is a big sucker.
Excuse me, are you saying Catastrophe is not a real card?
Yes.
All right, this cat has feelings.
Look, all I'm gonna say, I will say this: me and Gems, as soon as Cross Region went live, he played against me to test it out, and he beat me with Catastrophe.
No, he didn't.
I didn't know it was happening, so I didn't hold removal for Catastrophe.
Why would you?
I thought he was just playing a meme deck. I mean, he was, but
Boulevard, you know we're live right now, right?
Yeah.
You just said on an open cast on a live stream that you lost to Gems to Catastrophe.
Look, what happens in friendlies stays in friendlies unless I tell you all about it. I'm a little surprised that we're not throwing out the Jettison here just to push a little bit of extra damage. It's not like, I mean, unless we're trying really hard to bait out a single combat and we think Kuvira is going to fall for that. And maybe the potential of Kuvira throwing out a single combat is worth the missed 3 damage. I want to say it's not just because Jettison here would put you in Atrocity Nautilus range, but honestly, tracking the things that are tossed is difficult. I did not see if Atrocity was tossed.
I don't believe Atrocity was tossed, but again, like you said, pretty difficult to track what's tossed and what's not. I think it's difficult even for the players to track what's tossed and not tossed.
I'm tracking the wrong things. Like I have written down here, I am perfectly up to date on what the Maokai is at, and Arax has hovered it like 5 times.
And here is the Concerted Strike. You're going to come out to take care of that pesky elusive unit. the Abyssal Eye, and even if it were to have leveled up due to being deep, the 5 and the 3 attack would have been just enough to take care of it at 7 health as well. So we'll see what Kuvira does next. Finally, we see a Fiora come down in the Shen deck, which will probably get a lot of work done. This is looking pretty bad for Arax right now.
Well, this should be an open attack out of Kuvira. I mean, I don't think you ever go for the scout attack. Your board's pretty full. You don't really need to develop. You just throw that Shen onto literally any of your challengers, probably the Fiora, unless you want to play around Vile Feast. Then you just throw the Fleet Feather under the bus, and you push through, what is that, 11, 12 damage if you throw it onto the Fleet Feather.
Yep.
But Arax is actually really close to this Maokai level, sitting at 19 currently. So if this Dead Balloon dies and then the Jettison comes out, we will just be 1 away from the level. Granted, I think we're kind of at a point where it doesn't matter as much. There's no Ruination in this deck for Arax, or there is one, but he doesn't have it just yet. Might have gotten tossed, as we'd mentioned, having a hard time tracking those ones. And if he doesn't find Ruination and get the Maokai level up, I just don't think it's a realistic win con.
Yeah, no, I got to agree with you there. I mean, this is a heck of a swing that we're seeing here, too, from Kuvira. Technically, Arax lives. I imagine we see the Vengeance come out. I guess, do you prioritize... Okay, that's a big boy. So do you prioritize getting rid of the Shen or the Genevieve? I imagine the Shen... Because the Shen's just going to keep getting value.
I don't know how close that Shen is to leveling. You might even have to try and throw it out onto one of the units that's just challenging one of your guys.
Oh, that feels so terrible.
There's no, like, oh man, this is the best Vengeance target I could go for.
Yeah.
I think either Shen or Genevieve makes a fair amount of sense. Wouldn't be necessarily mad at either decision.
Yeah, it's just really awkward. You know, Kuvira just has a great board developed thus far with these barrier effects, and like you said, Ruination's really going to be the only way to deal with it, and we only see 1 copy in Arax's deck, so I'm not sure how quick he's going to actually be able to draw that bad boy.
So if we don't... Okay, never mind. I was going to say, if we don't Vengeance, then Jettison Maokai does bring down a leveled Maokai, but as I'd mentioned, I don't think that's really a win condition that you can play for. Maybe there is merit to getting down that 2-1 challenger on the following turn, but it's not going to kill any of the high-priority Vengeance targets, but it looks like Arax has decided that is probably his best shot at winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, the position he's in, I don't hate it. I mean, you could always use the Vengeance on a following turn. Whether or not he even lives to that turn, who knows? We are going into turn 9, and I feel like because turn 9 is so late in the game, when you're playing Brightsteel Formation, the chances of having that Brightsteel Formation on turn 9 are actually very high. So I imagine that we'll see a Brightsteel come down next turn. But playing this Jettison in response to single combat, gonna be great for Arax here, being able to still level up the Maokai and get this mill effect off. So we officially have our 2-turn clock, or 4-turn clock, 2-attack turn clock for Kuvira.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if it's better to Maokai on your turn or your opponent's turn to minimize their attack impact, but I think they get 2 attack turns either way. It doesn't make too much of a difference.
Yeah,
because there are some champions where like the level feels like it really matters which turn you do it on. For example, like Garen, you really want to level on your turn.
Yeah, and actually Quincy and chat too making a good point. You know, there is deny in Kuvira's deck as well. So even if something like Ruination were to somehow hit the field, Arax is going to have a tough time actually getting that one to stick. And we'll see if Kuvira does have this Brightsteel Formation to follow up on turn 9.
Oh, and we're just 1 mana shy of playing either Sea Monster in our hand. That feels like a bit of a low roll from the Jaw Hunters, giving us that Shipwreck Hoarder. Or maybe it gave us the Terror of the Tides and we main deck the Shipwreck Hoarder. Either way, neither of these are feeling great. We do have the mana for all 3 removal spells.
Does this... I think this saves Arax. I think playing the Vengeance, the Vile Feast, and the Riptide keep him alive. Wait.
Are you sure about that? Any 2 attackers are lethal.
Yeah, never mind. So we have a 4 and a 3 as the lowest 2, and that is going to be the 7. So no which way you toss it onto the board.
Oh, yeah, and the eye not functioning because Nautilus's Riptide is on the stack, which I think is really dumb, by the way. I don't need to see where the unit is going to land in my opponent's deck.
Yeah, well, it's probably some sort of... It's some code... It's weird code language we don't understand.
Because it's a random effect, yeah.
So, but... Wow, so super unfortunate. Barely dying there. If he had survived, I mean, granted, all right, Kuvira's playing 3 reposts.
Well, if he had survived, he'd actually have like a non-zero chance of lethal with that Terror of the Tides on the following turn.
It doesn't even matter. It totally doesn't even matter.
Super
Jesus,
dead.
never mind.
Super dead.
We were like, yeah, he almost made it out of that, and no, not even close.
It feels weird when you try to hover. Like I remember when the eye was first announced, I was like, I don't really love that. I feel like part of the skill of card games is knowing how everything's going to play out and resolve and being able to do math on your own.
All right, and that's going to do it for day 1, everybody. Oh, man, I got to say, we had a blast all of day 1. Lots of cool gameplay. Lots of, we had some crazy top decks in there as well. Not as crazy as one of the top decks in the top cut, though. If you guys might have already seen the clip floating around on the internet, you might know what I'm talking about, but it's insane. That game will be up at some point on the channel, so that's going to be pretty cool. But as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.